أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولله ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء قدير. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. فاستجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى بعضكم من بعض. فالذين هاجروا وأخرجوا من ديارهم وأوذوا في سبيلي وقاتلوا لأكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم ولأدخلنهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ثوابا من عند الله والله عنده حسن الثواب. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Thank you, Brother Yunus, for enlightening our hearts and minds with that wonderful recitation. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Dear brothers and sisters, just a few reminders. Kindly reminder, please silence your phones throughout the program. We have a station at the front. We have more information on our summer retreat, which is at the end of June. Registration is now open, so feel free to register. And we have the dua packets are still available. Dear brothers and sisters, please help me welcome Samahat Sheikh Aous to the podium with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Second time for the love of Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein. A third time for the love of Lady Fatima with the loudest of voices. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صلوات صل على محمد وآل محمد. واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, and what He says is the truth. In the chapter of Al-Hujurat, chapter 49, verses 11 and 12, He says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse, verse number 11, it's a bit long, He says, speaking to the believers, O you who believe, let not a people make fun of another people, nor should women make fun of other women, lest they be better than them. And do not divulge your secrets, and do not call each other names. Surely it is a terrible state for one to go from a state of belief into a state of corruption. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then continues to say, speaking to the believers again, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم. In verse 12, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also speaks to the believers. He says, O you who believe, do not fall into conjecture. Don't fall into thinking things that aren't real. You see, when you fall into conjecture, some of what you think might be wrong and cause you to fall into sin. And do not spy on one another. And do not backbite. And then he describes backbiting in a very, very gruesome fashion. He says, does one of you like to eat the flesh of his brother while still alive? Is that not hated to you? Is that not disgusted by you? Surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all forgiving and all merciful. صدق الله العلي العظيم. آمنا بالله. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, the topic that I chose for today, the title is, What About My Rights? Now, as we went through the last few nights, we learned quite a few things. We decoded life, we decoded ourselves, we got reacquainted with who we are. Not who we think we are, but who truly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to be. We understood that our self-worth comes from He alone and no other. We understood that our purpose in life is to please Him, to show gratitude to Him, to He alone and no other. And that now that I understand is the purpose of my life, I ask myself, how is it that I'm going to fulfill this great purpose? And I came to realize logically that it had to be that every faculty that God has given me must be dedicated to He and He alone. And so yesterday we got to a point where we spoke about how important it is to be able to control ourselves. What are the things that sabotage us? We spoke 2 lectures ago about physiologically and neuronally. How is it that we can sabotage ourselves? By not thinking rationally, by being reactive. And the reason for that is because of this little almond-shaped creation that Allah placed in our brains called the amygdala, that's there for fight and flight, to protect us from dangers. And yet we tend to circumvent our neocortex, our rational mind, by doing what? By falling into being reactive all the time. And we said that the reason for that is not just a neuronal cluster that circumvents and bypasses the neurocortex, but the fact that we ourselves haven't taken the time to train ourselves and practice in order for us to go into the regular way of rational thinking. So that when we hear something or see something, that when those signals go to our thalamus, they're not circumvented by that cluster, reactive cluster. Instead, they go directly to our neocortex where we can be rational. And we said that the way to do that, metaphysically, is to be able to practice and again and again and again that self-talk, right? Hadith al-qalb. That language has to change from a language of negativity to positivity. All of this is occurring where? Is occurring metaphysically within me. But neuronally, physically, it's actually changing my brain. And therefore, changing my actions. Everything then starts within my intellect. Starts within my heart. So that I can control my nafs. And that I can slay that dragon. I can control it. I can control it and dedicate it towards Allah Almighty. So that it becomes a nafs that is neither ammara bisu, nor lawama, not one that commands me to do ill anymore, nor one that blames me every time I do something wrong because of my weak intellect, because of my lack of training, but rather it becomes one that is content, mutma'inna. And that is how I want to meet my Lord every minute of my day. And yesterday we left with a program. And that program was to split our day in thirds. Exactly. Did anybody try it? Very good. Anybody else? Very good. Sent. And the program was that at the beginning of the day, what we do is after prayer, we make a dua, the dua of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, when a man, one of his companions came to him and said to him, I have a need, and I need Allah to give it to me. So he said to him, do this dua. That's the dua I gave you yesterday, at the end of the lecture. And that is to go into prostration, into sujood, onto the turba, and to say, what? Ahsant. Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, until what happens? Till I'm out of breath, exactly. And then what do? I ask Allah for what I want, right? And there are 2 things specifically that I told you to ask for. What were they? To mend you, for Allah to mend us. And also what? To protect us, right? From falling into sin. Exactly. And that we were to do so in a specific way. We were to use a specific code, a specific formula. What was that? His names. Which names? Ya Asim, very good. Which means, O immunizer, O protector. And what's the other one? Ya Muslih, very good. Ahsantu. O he who mends all things. Now those who tried it today, did you find that it helped you not fall into sin? Did it make a difference in your day at all? It did? I see some heads nodding. Okay, good. So today what we want to do is we want to really look deeper now into our rights, because we did something yesterday, and that was we looked at how it is that we can fall into false self-expression, right? Today we want to talk about positive self-expression and how not to fall into that negative self-expression, and how to use, first and foremost, our tongues, meaning our ability to speak, as that is the means, the sound box, including our tongue, that is the means with which we communicate. Not only with others, but also with our Lord. Right? So not only the internal metaphysical language, but now the external language, whatever comes out of my mouth. You know what's interesting is that this tongue can cause us to fall into so many problems. We know that logically, right? I don't need to go through the logical argument. But what I want to share with you is some statistics, some figures. And these statistics, according to, there's a website called stopbullying.gov. Has anybody heard of it? The government of the United States has actually dedicated an entire website to bullying, which tells us what? Is bullying a problem in the U.S.? Yes, it is. Right? This website states that 3.2 million students per year are bullied. Now, bullying generally, according to this website, is through name-calling, verbal abuse, and physical bullying. Notice the first two have to do with something your tongue does. The last one is physical. 160,000 students skip school per day because of bullying. Per day. 17% alone in the US, it's reported, are bullied twice to 3 times at least per month. The CDC gives this stat. It says that 4,400 deaths by suicide occur every year as a result of this problem. 4,400, afwan. 4,400. 4,400. Now what's interesting is that to every successful attempt at suicide, there are 100 failed attempts, according to the CDC. So those that attempt to, but don't end up being successful. 14% consider suicide because of this issue, and 7% attempt it. There are 123 suicides per day in the United States of America. That's an astounding figure. Now, in an article that I read by a PhD by the name of Daniel Sonkin, he cites 2 works. One done by Harvard Medical School by a professor there called Martin Teicher, a professor of psychology. And what he says is, according to his studies, verbally abused youth, so youth that are verbally abused, they did brain scans on them. And they compared those brain scans to those who were physically and sexually abused. You know what they found? They found that the same damage that is done to the brain of those who are physically and sexually abused is the same area, exactly the same area, and the same amount of damage as those who are physically abused, as those who are verbally abused. So look at the damage that verbal abuse can do to someone. Verbal abuse can actually alter the human brain and damage it, as much as physical abuse and sexual abuse. In another study by a scientist called Marco Lacubani, he did a study on couples and verbal abuse that occurs between couples. Okay? Now what his studies show is that couples actually neuronally grow together. Right? So you know how you might see this with your parents. Like before your mom says something, your dad knows what she's about to say, right? Or before your dad even comes home, your mom already knows what most likely he feels like eating today. Right? You ever had that? And the reason why is because neuronally they're connected. And of course, metaphysically there's a connection there too, right? Because Allah says in the Holy Quran, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, that a marriage, when you're a couple, right, it's a place of residence, a place where you reside, right? And you know your home inside out, right? And it's that type of relationship. Now what's interesting is, what does this study show? This study shows that those couples that were verbally abusive to each other, say the man is verbally abusive to the woman, that the amount of neuronal damage that she would have in her mind, in her brain, was equivalent to that of someone who was physically abused, first of all. And secondly, that there would be a deterioration in certain areas of the brain as a result of that. While those who had good relationships with each other, who always spoke to each other positively, right, both of their brains actually showed similar growth and similar change. Now the nice thing about this research is that it shows something really interesting, and that is that this damage is reparable. It's not irreparable. And this is a result of something, a phenomena, called in the human brain called neuroplasticity, which means its ability to actually bounce back, to be flexible, right? To almost reinvent itself, as long as you do what? As long as you reinvent yourself and your language and how you think about things. Now the question is, why is it that someone is always negative, right? The scientists say that the reason why this happens is because of a phenomenon called withdrawal emotions. Now, just to explain this idea really quickly. When a person has a bad day, right? The first person that they tend to take it out on isn't someone that is unknown to them, not a stranger. Usually, right, when we go home, if we're having a bad day, who hears about our bad day first and foremost? Our family, right? And even if we don't say a word, that negative demeanor that we have, right, they pick up on right away. They say, oh, you're not talking as much today. Is everything okay? Right? And what do you say? You say, yeah, everything's fine, it's all right. There's nothing going on. And then they'll bug you again and say, are you sure? Are you sure nothing's going on, Muhammad? Are you sure you're okay, Karrar? You look a little down today. And then you'll be like, no, it's okay. But you're that much closer to saying why, right? You're this way. Then the next time they come and say to you, come on, you can tell me. Right? It's all right, you can tell me, Muhammad. I promise I won't judge. And then the floodgates open, right? Now the floodgates, when they open, alaykum salam, the floodgates, when they open, they can open in one of two ways. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Either the floodgates open up in an apologetic manner. I don't know why. This happened to me today. This person at work or at school or my teacher or my prof or whomever, my boss, right? They just don't get it. I'm trying to do a good thing and they keep doing this. Or I'm trying my best and I'm just not getting it fast enough. Or I did bad on the exam again and I don't know why and I studied really hard. Or I didn't study enough for my exam and I know that I deserve this and I know I'm better than this, but I keep making the same mistake and I don't know why I keep procrastinating. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me. Or it could go the other way. Right? Get out of my face. I don't want to talk about it. Right? And you might say, well, I'm just going to hit the gym. Right? Anyone tell that? I'm just going to hit the gym. Right? You come back, of course, you're all pumped up and everything, right? But you're just as frustrated. I mean, you say, oh, I feel better. But really, just give it a few hours and you're back to thinking about it again. Because when you have to face that person again, what are you facing? If it's a person. That same negativity. And that's affecting your brain. That's affecting your mental state, right? So how do you get over that? How do you get over that? Now, modern science tells you, and I mentioned this before, being proactive, changing your language and doing all that sort of stuff, right? Today, my goal is not to talk about that because we already addressed that part. I want to address the issue of sarcasm. I want to address the issue of, conjecture and thinking things of other people, thinking ill of other people. And I want us to focus today on one of the most important rights that Imam al-Sajjad gives us. Because we proved that everything has a right, all of our body parts, right? And we said that our Imam, Salamullah alayhi Imam Rada, he said that everything has a sadaqah, everything has a charity, right? And the charity of the body is to fast, correct? If you remember that hadith, I mentioned it a few nights ago. Now I know that my tongue is like a sword sometimes. And some of the things that it falls into is being sarcastic. I mean, I don't know an Arab who is sarcastic, right? That was supposed to be a joke. I was sarcastic. Right? No. Right, Ali? Many of us, we grow up in sarcastic households, unfortunately. Even with our buddies, right? Now, what's interesting about sarcasm is that it's a great escape mechanism. Right? Because you can never, you're joking, but you're telling a bit of truth in there too. So if the person says, I can't believe you said that, would you stop doing that? What did I say? I didn't mean it. I was just joking. Right? And so what happens is this uneasiness between you and the other person. This blurry line. It's not really a fine line in the sand where you can say, I know where I stand with this person. Right? It creates a sense of uneasiness. Does this person like me? Don't they like me? Right? Oh, I like the gel in your hair. Smell. Right? With a little snicker. What, you don't like my hair? No, I said I liked it. Does he like my hair? Doesn't he like my hair? No. Or when, for example, a parent says, what, are you going to go out like that? To the jama? Yeah, what's wrong with what I'm wearing? Oh, nothing, I was just asking. Okay, I better go change. Oh, you're going to go change? Well, weren't you telling me? Well, I didn't say anything. Right? What's interesting is this form of communication is actually poisonous, and we don't even know it. And the reason why is that, sure, it gives me a way to get out of my statement. But that person now Every time they talk to me, they don't know the truth from the falsehood. So what kind of neuronal pathways is this person building for me? Right? Should I set a neuron? Should I not? Should I? Right? There's this unease. And that's not what Allah wants of us. So what does Imam al-Sajjad tell us? He says, وَأَمَّا حَقُّ اللِّسَانِ. As for the right of the tongue. فإكرامه عن الخنا وتعويده على الخير وحمله على الأدب وإجمامه إلا لموضع الحاجة والمنفعة للدين والدنيا وإعفاؤه عن الفضول الشنعة القليلة الفائدة التي لا يؤمن ضررها مع قلة عائدتها ويعد شاهد العقل والدليل عليه وتزين العاقل بعقله حسن سيرته في لسانه ولا قوة إلا بالله. What does that mean? The Imam says, he says, look, ask for the right of the tongue. Ask for the right of the tongue. He says you shouldn't use it for profanity, number one. You shouldn't dirty that tongue with anything. No four-letter words. No four-letter words. Four-letter words are haram. They're actually prohibited. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي. Allah says in the Holy Quran. He says, God Almighty commands you to be just, to be righteous, and to stay away from anything that is obscene and profane. Come on, Sheikh. No, I mean, it's just a four-letter word. It doesn't mean anything. It's not like I really mean it. It doesn't matter. Right? We proved the unlimited exists. We proved in the last series that the Quran is truly the Word of God. And therefore, what He tells me, I have to follow. And what does He say? He says, no profanity. Only righteousness. ينهى. He prohibits. عن الفحشاء والمنكر and ill-doing. والبغي and any form of deviation. That's a transgression. So how does this then apply to my tongue? My tongue has to be righteous. I have to use it righteously. I have to clean it out. Right? I have to use proverbial soap. Don't go home and pick up some soap and wash your mouth out. That's not what we're saying. Okay? I know how dedicated all of you are, mashallah, to improving yourselves this month of Ramadan. Right? I mean, if you want to, you can brush your tongue with toothpaste. Okay? So what does he say? He says, فَإِكْرَامُهُ عَنِ الْخَنَمِ. Now, the word ikram. When I, for example, invite one of the brothers, Brother Ibrahim, I invite him to my house. وَأُكْرِمْهُ. What does that mean? That means that I'm generous with him and I'm gracious. So, how does the Imam describe it? He says, look, you have to be gracious to your tongue. Imagine that your tongue is a guest. Okay? Would you defile your guests? Would you? Or would you be gracious to them and make sure that you're kind to them and that you're righteous to them? Treat your tongue as a guest. Treat your tongue as a guest. إِكْرَامُهُ عَنِ الْخَنَى. And then what does he say? He says, وَتَعْوِيدُهُ عَلَى الْخَيْرِ. He says, and practice. Practice makes progress. Make it a habit for it to do good, to be righteous. So practice saying good things. Ya Habibi, ya Ba'ad Qalbi, ya Sayyid Jawadin. Sayyidah Fatima alayha salam in Hadith al-Kisa, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. What does she say when Imam al-Hasan al-Hussein come into her house? She says, Ya waladi wa ya qurrata ayni wa thamarata fuadi. Oh my son, apple of my eye, fruit of my heart. Isn't that beautiful? Wouldn't it be beautiful every time you come into the house, that's what you hear? Of course, you're all hearing Imma in the Iraqi families when you come home. Yumma, aruh lak fidwa. right? Or if you're Lebanese, Ya Ammi Ta'ibirni, right? Beautiful words. Ya Qurrata Aini wa Thamarata Fuadi. Now imagine when you talk to your brother, instead of saying, yo, hey, get up. Did I not tell you? Instead of that, saying, Habibi, Nur Aini, O light of my eyes, my beloved, Allah yarda alayk. May Allah be pleased with you. I'm going to the Jama. I'll be waiting for you in the car. Don't take too long. Allah yarda alayk. May Allah be pleased with you. As opposed to, yo, I'm going to the Jama', alright? You ready? You're ready. You're not? I'm off. Right? Look at the difference. And to make it a habit to introduce little things. According to Charles Duhigg in his book, The Power of Habit, he says, just make small changes. Do it for 36 to 38 days. For us, we know, we have the month of Ramadan, 30 days of just changing our habits. And another 6 days that are known as the days of light after Eid. Eid, normally we celebrate for 2 days. So, plus another 6, plus the 30, that's 36 to 38 days. We also know, for those who know Dua al-Ahd, right, the dua of allegiance to the Imam al-Hujjah salamullah alayhi, that he who recites Dua al-Ahd for 40 days, 40 mornings after Salat al-Fajr, that he will be absolved of 1,000 of his sins, will be forgiven, right? And that if he chooses, that he will be resurrected with the Imam al-Hujjah on his appearance. That's the power of changing a habit and creating a new one. And it's as simple as reciting a dua. And it's as simple as saying, Allah yarda alayk ya Ali. May Allah be pleased with you, Ali. It's as simple as saying, Ya Nur Aini, Ya Khalil. It's that simple. But doing it regularly. And every time you feel like reverting back to, what was it? Which one was it? Jekyll or Hyde? Which one was the bad one? Hyde, right? Every time you feel like reverting to Hyde, right? Remember the words of Imam Sajjad. What does he say after this? He says, وَإِجْمَامُهُ إِلَّا لِمَوْضِعِ الْحَاجَةِ وَالْمَنْفَعَةِ لِلدِّينِ وَالدُّنْيَا. And hold back its reins. Literally. Hold back its reins and muzzle it. Except in those things that you absolutely need and have benefit in. In what? He says, فِي الدِّينِ وَالدُّنْيَا. In religion and in the world. Meaning that to seek nearness to Allah through your religion and to seek nearness to Allah through your daily living. At work, for example. At school, for example. Right? And then he says, وَإِعْفَاؤُهُ عَنِ الْفُضُولِ الشَّنِعَةِ الْقَلِيلَةِ الْفَائِدَةِ التي لا يؤمن ضررها مع قلة عائدتها. He said, and excuse it from doing this. From falling into curiosity. Why? Because it has little benefit and even less of a return. Now you say, but Shaykhna, curiosity is how we discovered sciences, how we had advances in technology, right? I say to you, yeah, that's not the type of curiosity the Imam is talking about, right? He's talking about, you know that type of curiosity where you're like, so you got a new job, huh? How much are you making? I thought so. Those are nice wheels. How much were those rims for? Where'd you get them from? Right? How'd you pay for it? What do you care? Why is this your business? Right? Oh yeah? So how was that exam? Yeah. You flunked, right? Yeah, I know you flunked. I know you flunked. I saw your grade. I know your student ID number. شو دخلك؟ شو عليك? Why is it any of your business? This is what the Imam is talking about. This sort of curiosity has very little benefit. Then what happens? What happens? Yo Ali, you know Muhammad, he's walking a little tall these days, you know, I think he's doing all right for himself. You know what I think happened? And then I start conjecture. This happened and that happened. And, well, you know, I heard, you know, this girl, you know that one with the hijab in the mosque? Yeah, you know that one? Yeah, I think one of the brothers, Fulan, you know Fulan? Fulan Bazzi. I heard he was talking to her and he wanted to get married to her, but you know, it didn't work out. So there's still a chance. What is wrong with you? What do you care? Deep down inside, the research shows, and we know, that there's this deep feeling of jealousy, right? The more curious you become, the more it eats away at you, right? It's just corrosive, right? Toxic. This is why the Imam wants us to stay away from it. That's why. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that verse, what does He say? And He speaks to the believers, Speaks to the believers. He's not speaking to non-believers. He's saying, oh, you of faith, you can fall into this too, so be mindful. Okay? لا يسخر قوم من قوم. Let not a people make fun of another people. Do you know why? Allama Tabtabai, he gives a beautiful tafsir. And it's very simple. He says the reason why is because this person could have done something that you don't even know about. And it could be 1,000 times better than anything you've ever done in your life. But you just haven't seen it. So don't judge. Because when you are sarcastic, wallah, he's got gel in his hair, he's coming to the jama' with shorts, you know. Right? Or he prayed late, you know, look at this guy, he doesn't have strong iman. How do you know? Maybe he prayed late because, you know, he had some sort of problem at school, or his mom was sick, or he came to the jama' late to pray extra, right? And to seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you know? How can you judge? Only Allah can judge. So what does Allah say here? He says, لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم. Because these people might be better than them. ولا نساء من نساء. Neither should women. So women, don't think you're off the hook. So Allah says, all of you guys. He talks to the men first, of course. Plural form of men. لا يسخر قوم من قوم. Then he moves on to the women. Right? Then he says, and neither should women make fun of other women, lest they be better than them. And do not divulge your secrets. Oh, but she's my BFF, Sheikhna, come on. I can tell her everything, okay? Everything. She knows everything about me. That's not a good thing. Then you wonder, when you break off your friendship, can you believe she put up all my pictures on Instagram? Oh my God. She put up all my pictures. My private pictures. Even ones without hijab. She knows everything about you. Right? You did this to yourself. Quran says, don't divulge all your secrets. Oh, she's messaging stuff about me. Nobody else is supposed to know. I told her in confidence. She's your BFF. Right? She knows everything about you. Sheikh, I can tell her anything. Yeah, you can, but you shouldn't. Allah says, وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. And don't call each other names, Allah says. Don't call each other names. Don't bully each other. Notice, this is a verse just about bullying. 1,400 years ago, Islam is telling you, bullying, bad. Don't do it. And these are the forms of bullying, the most common ones. Then he says, why? He says, بِئْسَ الْإِسْمُ الْفُسُوقُ بَعْدَ الْإِيمَانِ. He says, you know what's going to happen to you? Your name might be Aous. But after you do this Aous, your name will be Fasiq. You'll become corrupt. Why? Because we said it's corrosive. It corrupts you. These acts. Then what does he say after that, Allah Almighty? He says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. Oh, you who believe. He says, اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم. Avoid conjecture. Avoid thinking about things you shouldn't worry yourself about thinking about. Right? Avoid making up scenarios in your mind. Because if you do, some of it would cause you to fall into sin. Because you see what ends up happening when you start thinking about stuff that is not your business? He says, you're going to fall into spying. You're going to check out people's profiles when you shouldn't. And you know that you shouldn't, because as soon as you hear the door creaking, what do? Oh, I wasn't doing that. I was just checking Salah time. Right? For the Muntada. I was wondering when the next lecture is for Tafsir by Sayyid Hassan al-Qazwini. Right? You know that what you're doing is wrong, because you're trying to hide it. Right? So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, He says, don't fall into tajassus. Don't fall into spying. Spying is haram. Right? And then He says, and do not backbite each other. Because once you spy, you know what you're going to do? You're going to go and talk to other people. And you're going to tell them, this is what your findings were. Right? And you're going to be backbiting them. And you shouldn't backbite. It's prohibited. It's haram. Do you know that when we backbite, on the day of judgment, the narrations say that on the day of judgment, we'll be standing, okay, and in accounting, we will be judged. And what will happen? We will see sins that aren't ours, and we'll see all of our righteous deeds gone. We'll ask, what happened? They'll say, well, you know when you were backbiting this person? Well, here's how it works. Yeah, you might not have heard. I'm going to have to tell you now. Well, you see, when you backbite, all of your good deeds, they go to the person you were backbiting, right? And then all of their bad deeds, you get. All right, see ya. Take that door. Right? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Wallahi, it's not worth it. It is not worth it. And then Allah, He says something. He says, look, just to kind of solidify how bad it is. He says, imagine this cannibalistic, disgusting act. That when you're backbiting, metaphysically, this is what you're doing. You might not see it physically. Metaphysically, the manifestation of what you're doing is you're eating the flesh of your brother or your sister. In Islam, with every word that you say, you take a huge chunk out of their flesh. Imagine yourself all bloody just because you're backbiting. Disgusting. Of course, nobody does that here. I'm just saying. You know. So then, what do I need to do? Allah says, look, right at the end of that verse, He says, Inna Allah tawwabun rahim. Verily, surely, Allah is forgiving and He's merciful. Stop doing it. Repent. Move on. Right? Look towards better things for yourself. Change your language. Change your thoughts. Change what you do with this tongue. So the Imam continues. He says, after he says, فَإِكْرَامُهُ عَنِ الْخَنَى وَتَعْوِيدُهُ عَلَى الْخَيْرِ وَحَمْلُهُ عَلَى الْأَدَبِ. Right? Make sure that you hold it to high standards, this tongue of yours. And then he says, وَعَفَاهُ عَنِ الْفُضُولِ الشَّنِعَ الْقَلِيلَةِ الْفَائِدَةِ الَّتِي لَا يُؤْمَنُ ضَرَرُهَا مَعَ قِلَّةِ عَائِدَتِهَا. He says, set curiosity aside. Don't use it for bad curiosity. Okay, you want to improve science and get a Nobel Prize? Good for you. But for other stuff like this, stay away. That's a no-no. Abort. If you see anybody do that, tell them not to do it. If they don't stop, get up and go. Okay? The next thing is that he says, after he says that, he says, وَيُعَدُّ شَاهِدَ الْعَقْلِ وَالدَّلِيلَ عَلَيْهِ. What? He says, look, this tongue of yours is considered evidence of how great an intellect you have. You know how somebody looks like all great and Bismillah looks very smart, and then as soon as they opened up their mouth, you're like, what did you just say? Seriously? Say something else, please. Your tongue is proof of what's up here. Imam Ali, he says it beautifully. He says, الْمَرْءُ مَخْبُوءٌ وَرَاءَ لِسَانِهِ. You want to know someone? Let them speak. A person, their true character is hidden behind their tongue, what they say. And he also says, الْأَحْمَقُ لِسَانُهُ أَمَامَ فِيهِ وَالْعَاقِلُ لِسَانُهُ وَرَاءَ قَلْبِهِ. He says an idiot, his tongue is always in front of his mouth, meaning that he's always talking, right? He's not thinking about what he's saying. But a person who is aqil, who is a rational being, his tongue is behind his heart. Right? He thinks, he rationalizes, he decides before the words are blurted out. In another narration, Imam Ali says, think of your neck like the neck of a camel. Before the words come out of your chest, let them go up and down before they come out. And then he says, once they come out of these two lips, they're no longer owned by you. No time is this more true than in our day and age, right? Because Khalil, as soon as you put that word out there on social media, the social media animal takes it over, right? Then what does he say? He says, وَتَزَيُّنُ الْعَاقِلِ بِعَقْلِهِ حُسْنُ سِيرَتِهِ فِي لِسَانِهِ. He says, look, if you want to adorn yourself with this beautiful intellect of yours, then know that your resume for your intellect is based on the actions of that tongue of yours. Right? What did your tongue do over the span of time? If you want to be known to be someone who has a great intellect, then you have to control that tongue. Oh Allah, we ask you and we beseech you that you help us control our tongues. Oh Allah, we know that the Prophet said in Ahl al-Bayt that every morning when we wake up, all of our faculties talk to our tongue and say to it, قِنَا شَرَّكَ, protect us from your evil. We know that the Prophet says that there is one thing that prevents the son of man, of Adam, from going into heaven. And the first and most dangerous of those things is what? Is the tongue. It is the separator between heaven and hell. You can do 1,000 good things and you end your life by saying one bad thing, like shaitan. Bow down to him. خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. You created me from fire and him from clay. I'm better. Next thing you know, eternal damnation. Oh Allah, we ask you and beseech you, let us not have satanic tongues, Ya Allah. Let us have high intellects and be able to control ourselves and practice saying good and righteous things, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. And help us practice with you first, Ya Allah, so that our conversation with you is fruitful. And so that we always ask you, Ya Rab, that when we ask you, Ya Asim A'samni, A'sim Lisani, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Control my tongue, Ya Rab. For it is a means for sin. And I don't want it to be a means other than to enter heaven, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين والفاتحة لأرواح المرحومين ولتعجيل فرج ولي الله على الأراضين مسبوقة مشفوعة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
أحسنتم شيخنا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for being here. Inshallah, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.